The murderous career of Kenya's most prolific gangsters, Daniel Cheruiyot, came to the proverbial 40-day end in a dramatic last fight with 50 armed policemen. Was he going to survive this dawn onslaught? His chances were slim. The writing was all too clear on the wall when his right-hand man John Mwaneki Karani was gunned down at Woodley Estate off Ngong Road, and Cheruiyot was next on the list.
Nairobi, Christmas Day 2004. Sergeant Maina Cheserem died that day. A single shot on the head. Professional, intimate, and deliberate. His killer was a man trained by the Kenyan police, wearing a stolen badge. The man who vanished into the night after issuing a chilling warning. Tell others, I'm just getting started. This is not a story about criminals. It is a story about systemic phantom. A police reservist turned cop killer who weaponized the very institution sworn to stop him. Daniel Cheruiyot didn't just murder policemen. He exposed how easily the lines between protector and predator vanish when corruption bleeds into the uniform. And his greatest trick was hiding in plain sight, while Kenya's most elite units hunted him down. By the end, you'll understand why criminologists call this case Kenya's blueprint for institutional betrayal, and why his legacy haunts every police reform promises made today. But first, we need to see where it all began. Daniel Cheruiyot was born in 1960s in the dusty countryside of Tarbo in Uasin Gishu. If I tell you that Daniel was born into richness, it will be a big lie. In fact, he was born into a poor family. Tarbo was a place of haves and have-not, and his family was the latter. His father worked in a cereal store for almost $1 a day, and his mother was a housewife. He became a student of life at a very early age. He watched the world around him. He learned many lessons just by observing the world around. When he was 7 years old, he saw a boy being beaten for stealing some mangoes. And from this incident, he learned one lesson: don't get caught. At age 9, he found policemen taking bribes behind the butchery. The lesson here was that authority is for sale. These lessons would change his entire life forever. When the family moved to Kitale, Daniel's hands grew quicker. Kitale's fertile soil bred more than wheat. It bred desperation. Daniel became a phantom in the marketplace. People would caution others to watch their pockets when Cheruiyot was passing by. He wasn't just stealing radios, he was stealing power. Police reports piled up, petty thefts, fights. A rumor spread that he had stabbed a butcher over some debt. With this news, his mother wept. His father disowned him. Kitale knew him as the hyena, always cycling, never satisfied. His family disowning him and his community rejecting him made him move from Kitale to Eldoret. Eldoret should have been redemption. Instead, it became his arsenal. Under mysterious circumstances, he got the job as a police reservist. A police reservist is someone who gets reports from crime victims, witnesses, and suspects, and later on write a summary of the information in a report. Moreover, he has the power to arrest, detain, and transport criminals. On top of this, he is armed by the government. One would think that getting his job was the end of his criminal activities, but Cheruiyot had other plans. He started by renting his weapon to criminals with a fair cut from the proceeds. And then with time, he saw that renting out was not enough. He decided to use it by himself. Eldoret recorded a record cases of robbery. All of them, Cheruiyot was responsible. It did not take long until the police got information about this criminal activity. They arrested him, took his weapon, and released him with a warning. Cheruiyot knew that his time in Eldoret had come to an end. He moved to Nairobi. The chaos of Nairobi swallowed him whole. His past became his disguise. Arriving in Nairobi, he reinvented himself, gave himself a new name, CID Officer Cheruiyot, leveraging his reservist background to cultivate an aura of authority. He easily convinced policemen that he was just coming for transfer as a CID officer in Nairobi, and since he understood the language of the police, they easily believed him. It did not take long before he acquired a weapon of his own, an AK-47, and another one, an Uzi. He spun elaborate tales of police operations to criminal networks, despite no actual officer recalling his service. This deception proved lethally effective. By impersonating law enforcement, he gained access to targets during supposed investigations, turning police protocols against the very institutions that trained him. His weapon rentals evolved into sophisticated bank heists and targeted assassinations, which he was rumored to be doing in his free time. Then something strange happened. The world is evolving, and people had started to install CCTV cameras in their businesses. Daniel was not aware of this problem at first. He went out committing crimes unaware that his face and activities were being captured by CCTV cameras. The electronic eyes meant never to blink. The mistake happened when they raided a jewelry shop in Westland. CCTV cameras captured his face in HD. He was seen adjusting his tie mid-robbery, calm, like a CEO. The grainy footage spread across police stations. The hunt began. The police issued a reward of Kenya shillings 100,000 to citizens who could provide information on the whereabouts of Cheruiyot that could lead to his arrest. The police also issued a warning of a gangster on loose. It did not take long before Cheruiyot heard the news. Every sane person would think that he would go underground, maybe throw away his phone and probably go and live off-grid. But that to Cheruiyot was an act of cowardice. He realized that the police had waged war against him and he was going to retaliate. He decided to hunt for the policemen to kill. The hunted are turned into the hunter. On October 2004, Constable Christopher Karue at Imara Daima Estate was leading a raid on Cheruiyot's hideout when Cheruiyot emerged with an AK-47 and shot him point blank in the head. On December 25, 2004, Christmas Day, people were celebrating Christmas, and Sergeant Maina Cheserem, as a police officer, was on duty. While standing beside his patrol car, bullet fired at point-blank range through his left ear beside his patrol car. His uniforms and valuables were left untouched. A deliberate act of humiliation against the police force. On January 15, 2005, Cheruiyot attacked Fulchand Shah. He shot him dead and robbed him in broad daylight. What an audacity. On 20th January 2005, he claimed his fourth victim, Corporal Moses Odiambo. He was ambushed alongside two colleagues while escorting a land dispute complainant. Four gunmen in a Toyota Corolla fired 27 bullets into their car, killing Odhiambo instantly. Odhiambo left behind a 21-year-old widow and a 2-month-old baby. These attacks exposed his tactical brutality and his exploitation of police training to target police officers, a legacy that still owns Kenya's law enforcement reforms today. Realizing the magnitude of the damage Cheruiyot was causing, the police knew they had to act. They turned traitor against a traitor. They offered freedom to one of the gangsters in Nairobi for his crime in exchange of Daniel's whereabouts. He directed the police to Daniel's house, and the police were not ready to waste more time. They quickly surrounded his house. At 3 a.m., January 27, 2005, 40 police officers, including senior police officers, surrounded the house. They told Cheruiyot that he was surrounded and that his only option was to surrender. But if there is one thing Cheruiyot could not do, was to surrender. He took his phone and texted his wife goodbye. Within minutes, tear gas came flying in through the window. He shouted, "Today, we settle this." Then came out holding his famous AK-47, ready for war. He never saw the sniper aiming at him. One shot scattered his brain. In his pocket, a text to his wife, "Forgive me." They buried him in Tarpo. No mourners, just curious kids who once feared the hyena. His legacy, a quench etched in blood. Daniel Cheruiyot's story ends where it always was destined to end, in violence and isolations. From a trader in Kitale to the little imposter turned down in Simama, his path was paved not by fate, but by a corrosive lie he chose to believe that crime was his only way forward. He chose to exploit the trust placed in him as a reservist. He chose to weaponize his authority instead of upholding it. He chose to pull the trigger on officers, on innocence, on any hope of redemption. At every critical juncture, when offered power, when caught betraying it, when facing the consequences, he saw only walls, not doors. He convinced himself the uniform was a tool for taking, not serving. That violence was strength, not weakness. That deception was survival, not a slow suicide. The powerful lesson? We always have a choice. Cheruiyot's tragedy wasn't his circumstances. It was his repeated decision to see criminality as his only option. He traded potentials for predation, community for isolation, and ultimately, his life for a lie. His path wasn't forced upon him. He walked it, step by step, believing he had nowhere else to turn. That belief was his true prison, long before the police arrived. Remember Daniel Cheruiyot, not for his crimes, but for the catastrophic cost of believing you have no choice. A wise man once said, "The darkest paths are always chosen, never decreed." Cheruiyot's end is a brutal proof.